that is a pile of wires, and that is also a pile of fixing wires, if I choose to do this, and I think I will. I'm pretty sure. I guess if you're seeing this, I've put them in, or going to put them in. So what we have here, I'll explain everything, get this out of the way. We have a large chunk here, goes over to here, and then the other half of it is right here. That's the power door harness out of a 85 Ram Charger. And I want to put power windows and power door locks in that guy right there. This door and the door over there. Boink. Worst of it is, some idiot who had this, because this was a parts truck, they cut, rather than take the switch off, they cut the stinking wires. I mean, I see that often in junkyards too, where they'll cut that to get the connector. It's like, I don't get it, because you just made so much more work for yourself. Now, admittedly, this harness not so much on the passenger side, but the driver's side harness, I think they hold the harness up at the factory and they build the truck around it, because this is like the first thing, and it's attached to the firewall. It's behind the dash. It's behind the heater box. It's behind everything. You know, all the, not necessarily the heater box, but the venting. It's behind all of that. It's like the first thing that goes in. So to get it out correctly, it is a lot of work. I thought I had them in there. I don't. But luckily, I was just scrounging around looking for some other stuff, and I found a set of switches, which obviously they've been. So yeah, I'm pretty sure they had the transplanted once before, because there's a lot of chrome shrink bezel thing, and soldering going on there. Still an 80. I think these came out of a 90. I got a pair of doors years ago, and I think that's where that came from. But so anyway, two differences with this. Obviously, you've got your windows and then your power door lock itself. Even says so on the thing. So the window switches would be the same, maybe a slightly different style. I think they probably had the chrome bezel still in 80 when everybody still believed in chrome. But so this is a little different. I don't care. Obviously, the truck didn't come with power windows and locks. I'm putting them in. It'll be fine. The gigantic power door lock actuators. Like they're just huge, especially compared to what you find nowadays. But and then this guy right here is the actual door lock switch. This is the same thing they use. If you watch my other videos, there's a green 77 Cordoba. I think there's a whole video on making these work, because this is that style. So the way, here, let me set the camera down. There we go. So the way these worked, and this hole up here was mounted solid, but the whole thing would pivot. And this long one went to the actual door latch. This went to your the door lock knob up in the top of the door. And when you push, you know, and there's resistance here, obviously. So you push, and it would physically rotate this whole thing, and it would unlock the latch. But then also, I'll zoom in a little bit if you can see it here. That rod coming out runs a switch. There's a wires for it. So it would essentially unlock the door and then run the door lock solenoid at the same time. As you push far enough, it hits the switch. Kind of a neat design. Problem is, here's the one for the other side. Yeah, the actual connection falls out really easy. They're just the way the I don't know if it's the way they put the rubber boot around them, or if it was just a kind of a poor design, but it looks like that one's been glued in there already anyway. So, and that was the problem with that Cordoba. I ended up creating another switch that worked. It actually worked pretty good. I was really surprised that it worked as good as it did. So it is doable. I think it's kind of a neat design, because you don't have that switch. You just use the door lock. But they can also be problematic, and it actually takes a fair amount of effort, particularly with the key in the door, to get it to work. So these are not going to be used. I'm going to go with just those switches. Obviously, different wire connectors. This one goes over to the passenger door. Somewhere there's the other half of it. There it is, yeah. This would hook in, this hooked into the up in the center of the dash into the wiring harness. Obviously, I'll have to refigure how all that's going to get connected. However, as luck would have it, that will be relatively close to the fuse box anyway. So I might not have to make too many giant additions to the wiring harness to get that to work. And then it's just a matter of, oh, speaking of those door lock actuators, you know, this is easy to get at. This is the connection that it looked like, and it kind of funnels off down to wherever that thing would be connected. So obviously that'll go away. It'll all be part of this. I'll have to unthread all that, get it all wired in here, and clean all these wires up, check everything, make sure there's no breaks in the door part of it. And then when I get that done, I'll go, maybe I'll get lucky and I'll find like a cab or a door so I can go measure that hole, make sure that hole is right. And all of these are the same. They're all the same size, same shape. Sometimes they're different shapes, like the, for some reason, the driver's side, usually for some reason, a lot of stuff was square. The passenger side was round. Don't know why they did that. I mean, you can't screw up left and right, but whatever. So, and the other neat thing is, you have speakers already built into the harness. There's the other end, same thing kind of on the passenger side portion. So, I don't know if I'll put speakers in the doors. I'm going to put them in the cab corners. I'll explain that some other day. But at least that option is there. I think I'll leave them all threaded in that way, because the wires will go through here, of course, for the speakers. So that way, if I want to put speakers in the doors, I can. It depends on what I use for door panels. I'm kind of leaning towards putting the carpet kind of on the bottom of the doors, just for sound and looks. And then it's pretty easy to put in a speaker without, even if I got to hack a hole in there, you can't tell anyway because it's covered nice. So that's kind of what my project is, because I just don't feel like being outside. It's kind of cool and windy, dreary outside. So this is my indoor project. Already hit a couple snags in this process. First thing, so the actual power door lock switches from this harness, this 85 harness, have 3 wires. These have 5. And I looked at the wiring diagram for like an 80, which is also the same as 84. I looked at both of them. And then I looked at the digital version of my 90, which is what this stuff looks like. I have to sit down and do some figuring, make sure it all works right. Then the other thing that I need is where this plugs into like the dash harness, essentially, out of that RAM charger. That piece goes to, say, the fuse box, so the power feed in, and then there's a couple circuit breakers / relays for the power windows, power door locks. I got to go find that piece so I can, I got to have those in there anyway. Even like the 80 would have something like that. Is the connections were a little different and everything, but still has basically the same thing. So I have, no matter what, I have to go find that piece so I can get it in, and then I can tap that into, the factory harness for this 80, but it'll be the 80s, 81 and up style anyway. So I got to find that. I got to get ink from my printer so I can print the other wiring harness diagrams out, so I can, it's easier than trying to look at the computer, come back out to the shop, blah, blah, blah. But in the meantime, I'm just cleaning up my my power window regulators, get those cleaned, greased, ready to go, get the motors put on, get little jumper wires put on, so when I get the windows back, I can at least get those in. I can always thread wires later. Okay, this is kind of a mess. I've got wires scattered everywhere, but I have confirmed everything works. That one works. This is that one. Here's my door lock. Oh, it did. Oh, wire's calling loose right there. But then this door lock See, that one works. That one works. So, relays and stuff I got out of the salvage yard the other day. I needed this piece that went from here with the relays, power windows, power locks. The big difficulty was getting, you know, power door lock switches wired in because the colors were different. Door locks, the driver's one was pretty simple. It's just power in, power out, you know, easy enough. And I just have them shoved in the holes for now just to make sure everything works. This one was a little more complicated because there's a bunch of extra wires. And what I've got in here right now is actually designed to go down to the actual door lock itself. I don't know why this one is wired differently, but I will get rid of a couple of these extra wires because I really only need 3 in it. There's 5 coming out of there. I'll fix that. This one has got ground wires coming out. It doesn't need them, not with the way this system is set up. I could disconnect this ground and they should work just fine. So it's just kind of a big convoluted mess right now, but it works. And that was the big thing. I fought with this power window switch for a long time because I could get everything worked off of that switch, but I couldn't get it here. Well, what happened, one of the wires fell out of the little clip, little retainer thing that goes over the pin. So I had to open this piece up and fix it and put it all back together. I thought I remembered where everything came from. Obviously, I did not. I was using the manual wherever it went. This is for the power door locks, but you know, I was using like that diagram to put each color back on there, and I couldn't get it to work. No matter what. I fought with that for a couple hours. Well, learn from my fail, I guess, is the way sometimes these are put. It's difficult to tell, especially with these flat connections. Are you looking at it like this or like that? You know, you're looking at the pin side or the back side, and that was my problem. I had everything, you know, mirror imaged, so I had the blue and purple on that side, the white and brown on this side, and it didn't work. And I was laying there in bed last night, and all of a sudden it dawned on me, what if I did that? I came out here in my slippers, flipped them around, poof, worked. Went back to bed, poof, slept good all night long because that was bugging me. I was at a loss. I still have obviously a bunch of repairs to do. Like a lot of these wires are kind of broke, so I have to do some repair and fixing on some of these things. Both sides are kind of like that. So for now, everything is kind of working, even if it's in a temporary state. I'll just have to put it all together now and or mark things well enough so later on when I actually start kind of piecing it all together so it actually fits right, I get it all done back together the same way without having to re-guess later when it's in the vehicle, tougher to get at. Something else I found digging around, I found some much nicer power door lock actuators rather than these giant bullet sounding solenoid things. That's just a tiny little electric motor in there. So I'm thinking I'm going to put these in there because A, they're a lot quieter and they are a lot less weight. I mean, probably a fifth of the weight. Not that it's going to matter much, but you know what? It's a little side benefit, I guess. A little less weight. I got to dig through, find power window motors that all work right because that one turns slower and makes more noise than that one does. This has obviously been replaced. That's an original one from whatever. So I gotta do a little skulking around, see what I can find. But that's easy stuff to deal with later. One last thing on this before I kind of conclude with this for now until it's actually in the vehicle. So I marked my wires. Like here, this is the one that actually goes up over to the switch. A, I've got C over here, B, blah, blah, blah. Each one, then I kind of wrote down notes for what each one does, what colors go where, kind of what they do. That way, when I kind of bundle all this up to get it out of my way for now, I know exactly how to put it all back together without having to remember whether it's next week or next month. I can get it all put back together, and then I kind of size, I'll have to size everything out, make sure all this kind of fits the location to it. I don't short myself on wires or have 6 feet more than I need. So just a little helpful hint. Oh, I said something about power window motors. I have 2 brand new ones still in boxes. I bought those a while back when I was working on the green Cordoba. Those weren't right for that, but I figured I'd use them sometime. Poof, sometime has arrived.